Let's give you an update on the markets now. The local bourse looking set to join mostly positive trade, albeit somewhat subdued. Investors are waiting for fresh catalysts after data at the weekend showing a surprise decline in Chinese manufacturing sector activity. Rella Suskin is head of research at Benguela Global Fund Managers, and she joins us now for an update on the latest at the JSE. Rella, good morning to you. Give us your quick overview of how the markets have opened. With the start of the new month, anything specific we need to look out for in the month of August?
Morning. This morning, as you said, our markets are looking quite positive, and that's very much in line with what European markets are doing, as well as Asian markets. And that's despite, as you mentioned, the Chinese PMI data that came out yesterday and then again this morning, showing them going back into a decline in terms of their PMI manufacturing data. Which was unexpected. It was expected that it's continued to see growth as they come out of the COVID lockdowns. I think looking forward into the rest of the month, we're still seeing a bit of earnings seasons numbers coming out of the US. So I think markets will be watching to see how companies pass through these big cost increases to customers. And then we continue to watch for news coming from the Fed and other central banks around continued interest rate increases.
Let's talk about the ABSA Purchasing Managers Index, further declining in June, suggesting that the manufacturing sector experienced a tough start to the third quarter. Talk to us through that data.
Yeah, so the numbers from the ABSA PMI were quite negative and worse than expected. The number for July came out at 47.6. versus the previous number in June of 52.2. Any number below 50 really means a contractionary environment or a declining growth environment. And it's also the lowest figure that we've seen since the riots that we saw in 2021 in KZN and Gauteng. It's really, the main driver here is the heavy load shedding that we have been seeing that has a large knock on business confidence in the country. But also there is some link to a decline in global growth. Obviously, our economy is very much linked to global growth through our commodities, and we are seeing softening demand from there.
Yeah, let's talk company news. MTN Group publishing its trading statement for the 6 months which ended on the 30th of June 2022. How have they fared in the period under review?
Yeah, so it was a decent result. They're expecting earnings to increase between 40% and 50% for the period, which is pretty much in line with market expectations. The market's looking for about a 45% increase for the full year. I think the key drivers there is their mobile money business in Nigeria, which is gaining scale. And as it gains scale, it has very positive impact on earnings growth. And then also, Cell C has been recapitalized, and MTN benefits from that through their roaming agreement with Cell C. It's a high margin business and should contribute quite nicely to the SA operating profit over the period.
Let's conclude the conversation with Miner Tungela Resources, also releasing its trading statement. How are their numbers looking?
Yeah, so their earnings growth is quite incredible, but also largely expected by the market. They're expecting earnings growing from 3 Rand last year to about 67 Rand this year. So it's a more than 2,000% increase. And that's really driven by the massive increase in the coal price that we've seen over this period versus the comparable period. And that's linked to what we're seeing in Russia, Ukraine, them holding back gas to Europe. And so there's been a large increase in demand for coal. And Tungela is really one of the primary beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, Rella Suskin, let me thank you very much for that markets update. She is with the Benguela Global Fund Managers, ahead of research there.